Welcome to the This Week's Acca podcast, sponsored by Sky Bet. Acca frees Tom, Joe and Jake with you to run through the schedule. Coming up on this episode then, we're reflecting on the European action over the past few days, but will that influence our Saturday selections? Well, we're taking 4 automatic promotion hopefuls, all at home, combined at 8-1. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel to ensure that you never miss an episode. And remember to keep it fun, never bet more than you can afford. This podcast is 18 plus. Please gamble responsibly. Okay, let's kick off by looking at last week. It was bad, but at one point it looked good. I'm thinking about the 40th minute. It was happening. Burnham were winning. Bristol Rovers were winning, Bournemouth were winning. It didn't happen in the end. Congratulations to Rotherham, who hadn't won a Saturday 3pm away game since about 1988. We've backed them to lose. They've won. So well done. Congratulations. You've finally done it. All you needed was our curse. Jimmy's not on. That's weird. Who wants to take any comments-based stuff? Have anyone got anything?
Yeah, I got him. You've already basically read a comment out for us there, which is really helpful. But Bolton C got in touch to say, the Acca strikes again. Rotherham not won away at 3pm Saturday for 3 years. Then along come the lads. So cheers for that one.
What were you thinking?
Colin Jeffrey was prolific with his comments.
Well, how many comments there?
He sent 4, and one of them, it's War and Peace. Just as a quick count, I reckon that's about 150 words. Quite offensive, some of it. But thanks for getting in touch still. Keep the comments coming.
Need that Apple AI summarise.
I'm just going to pick out one, which is, you might as well get 3 monkeys than these guys. Anyone following these predictions, and most weeks will just make the bookies more money each week. Maybe it's a joke? Question mark?
Well, we've got a different monkey on today. I'm back. Yeah, Fourth monkey.
We switched Jake in for Jimmy. Sorry, lads, said Carlisle Chava 265. Won 10 grand with your first 2 wins, then lost it all.
All she did.
Sean's
Really believe.
Last one, Sean Scott Dennis. Always get, actually, Colin Douglas, I'll read you out as well, mate, because I'm a fan of your comment. This Acca has some work to do now, lads. I kept Rovers and Wimbledon, dropped the Cherries, and added Donny, Walsall and Posh. The one thing I will say, because that Acca won't have won either, Sean Scott, then it was a pretty tricky slate to pick a winning Acca last week. Everything that we even vaguely discussed, we were really good at saying why not. So the ones that we all had doubts on, pretty much none of them won. Or the team that were like, no, I actually fancy them to cause an upset, they won. But if you went and looked at the slate now with the results, it would have been very hard to actually pick a winning Acca.
Not to defend you all too much, but Joe messaged me on Wednesday, I think it was, when he was doing his prep, and just literally said, you've got away with one here.
Oh, God, yeah. It was
not being on last week, and I had not looked at the schedule, but yeah, it looked awful. I would have struggled to pick a winner. Any winning teams, probably.
We were shit.
Yeah. We're going to be better this week, all right?
Well, that can round us off with Colin Douglas saying, I'm so glad yous... So that's either somebody from... If you let us know, Colin... either from Scotland or the Northeast, I tend to think, if someone's saying yous. I'm so glad yous will never get to tip the horses. I've told yous before, take up the fishing.
Jimmy's trying.
Yep.
That's where he is. He's not. He's just behind that wall. Magic. The good news is the slate is, I'm going to make very early claim. Don't overthink it.
I like
easy games. This just take a nice 8-1 or something. Get back on track with 4 picks. Before we do that, if you'd backed PSG in a Wednesday Acca, how furious would you be this Thursday morning?
Raging.
How the hell did they... Well, we know, Alisson.
Yeah.
You'd have been furious.
You would have.
You said before you backed Liverpool, so you're delighted.
Yeah, I backed Liverpool. I just thought PSG, it kind of happens every year, doesn't it, with PSG? It gets to this stage of the Champions League, they're battering all the French teams in the league, and everyone goes, gets a bit carried away. But they actually lived up to the billing of looking like a legit team. They just met an Alisson in unbelievable form. I do want to credit Liverpool in defence as well, because I think they limited PSG's shot quality very well. You don't remember too many clear-cut chances PSG had. It was more shots from distance that forced Alisson into good saves. But yeah, I was just saying to Joe before we started, a lot of people jumping on PSG to win the second leg at Anfield, and I just thought that was a bit daft, to be honest, because Liverpool aren't going to play that bad again. PSG aren't going to play that well again. It's a young, inexperienced PSG team, an experienced Liverpool team at home, under the lights, in the Champions League, the old cliche. I'd be shocked if Liverpool don't advance.
It was interesting as well to see last night that the TNT presenters, who I distinctly remember many of them early in the season saying, Kieran Kelleher deserves a run in the team here. It would be absolutely diabolical to bring Alisson straight back in, given how well he's playing. There's no real hint of that, was there, last night?
Oh, God, no.
It was an unbelievable display. Definitely stuck his flag in the ground for being the best keeper in the world. By a clear margin, I'd say, at the moment. I can't think who's anywhere near the levels that he's able to produce. All-round game as well. Distribution. Every time Liverpool looked like they might get an opening on the counter-attack, it was usually him starting it as well. So
He got the pre-assist,
it was right,
didn't he? Just hoofing it.
Right up there as a performance.
It just makes you wonder, though, just for, like, Liverpool have just signed Marmadashvili as
I was
well.
about to say, he's not been playing well, has he, for Valencia either?
No.
It's not really going well for him over there, which who'd have thought buying a player on the back of a tournament always works.
Always goes
Famously,
well.
Always works. So he's definitely delivered at the right time. Arsenal, Villa, they did the job.
Yeah.
Arsenal, Jesus.
I wanted to just leave it and did the job. Who had? If you want more Sporting Life football genius, if you go back to the preview, ignore the fact the actual tip did win at 6-1. That's irrelevant because I ended the intro section by saying it's certainly a game where your eyes are drawn to under 2.5. So just sure
He landed 6-1 Timber.
I think that
For time wasting.
completely irrelevant, that part.
But he 5-1 up and he's time wasting.
That is just so vintage Arsenal.
Classic.
Yeah, that is just fantastic. I spoke to Jimmy on Monday afternoon about what to put in the Tuesday Acca that we do just on the website, because we did have a couple of comments coming in on the YouTube channel saying what are the picks for midweek, and remember you just need to go straight to the website for that. And looked at Arsenal. I was like, well, I like the Arsenal price, but they've got no striker, have they? So we just can't trust them to score enough.
Everyone scored.
And it's PSV's joint biggest defeat in history. I mean, had they been unbeaten? Was it either at home or just all told 15 matches, something like that?
Yeah, having a bit of a wobble, but yeah.
He was a broken man afterwards, wasn't he? He couldn't say anything pretty much. The fact they've got to play a second leg, there should be a mercy rule, really.
Tap out.
They can just allow fans to play a game instead or something like that, because this is ridiculous. This second leg.
The Tuesday Acca, if you want to comment, Luca Hemingway on Twitter, George sent me this, Villa fan, I think, by the looks of it. Can you just ask which prick in capitals recommended Reading to beat Exeter?
Oh, so that was me, yeah.
Fucking brain dead.
Yeah, it's 0-0, isn't it?
0-0, yeah. Sent a screenshot of it being 0-0 and 10 shots to 11. To be fair, I did have my own bet on Cambridge to beat Stevenage, which didn't win, but at half-time the shot count was 0-0.
Wow.
Nothing had happened.
As George replied and tagged me. You see, that's why I've stopped using Twitter.
No,
Just can't take the abuse.
Yeah.
he did run it past replying Jimmy of Jimmy the Punt fame. We put out a thing, PSG versus Liverpool shot map, hang it in the Louvre. Louvre. And he's replied, I don't think you know how the Louvre works. Spell N-O. So George did want to reply, I don't think you know how spelling works. But
Jimmy's
did do it. Maybe I'm on the account now. Maybe I will reply
He's
now.
not a subbing. He's a very good writer, how he writes, but it's just correcting the no for the KN. It's a little foible of his.
A-N-O-B.
There was a few decent talking points from the weekend as well. I think the main one was Millwall goalkeeper just...
Oh, stop hurting his feelings, everyone.
No, you
Stop
just made me
hurting our
think,
feelings.
what's the worst tackle you've ever seen? 'Cause I immediately went to Ben Thatcher on Mendes.
That
Live or just...
No, just in general, like that you can remember
I
seeing.
saw the Joe McEverley tackle. Was it Joe McEverley, the Sheffield United one, where he flips him? It's one of the best tackles I've ever seen. That was amazing.
Ruben Lamires.
Can't remember it. Yeah,
Was it against Coventry?
I think it was Lee.
Yeah.
I think one days, wasn't it? When they both.
He was like quite he was a really elegant midfielder, wasn't he, Ruben Lamires? And I think it gave him concussion. It was that bad a challenge.
I can't remember it was on co-cons, but they don't use them anymore because then I went back and watched it recently. I'm sorry, that's a red card. Yeah, no, all day of the week. Sorry, yeah, he's got to go.
Yeah, booked, did he?
I don't think so.
The Ben Thatcher one's the worst because it looked like, allegedly.
Allegedly.
It looked as though he may have been trying to hurt him, which is why it was quite scary. And he like stared over him like it was Mortal Kombat at the end, didn't he? It's definitely an accident, the Liam Roberts one. I think he potentially bottled it a bit not to go in with his head, so ended up going in with his foot, mistimed it. But I mean, it was so...
It was the reverse of the Mane Edison.
Oh, so dangerous.
From a few years ago.
God.
Mane did the same to Edison when he came rushing out.
Yeah, it was awful. So, yeah, it's as bad as I can remember seeing ever. Yeah, it was shocking. Steve Parish at least kept his own counsel, which was good.
Those weird BBC halftime interviews with chairmen of clubs that has really come to the fore on that one.
Anyway, can we just talk about the long term? No, we absolutely can't. One of my players just got kicked in the head by a goalkeeper and he's in hospital. We don't know whether he's regained consciousness. We can't talk about other stuff.
They're giving him an extended ban.
Can we? Well. Is that all right?
They're pushing for it, which again... From the club who bought you, no one likes us, we don't care. It's a sequel, please stop hurting our feelings.
But anyway.
Bad tackle, nobody's saying you went out and meant it, but these things can be true. It was a fucking atrocious challenge. Can't do that.
There's some people saying it
deserves to
wasn't
be
a red.
banned.
Yeah.
Those are true, and we're not going out and saying his intention was to try. No, that's of course not. It happens, you make bad decisions, that's fine. There's a consequence to making bad decisions. That's unfortunately also true. That's like the middle ground that I don't think many parties are kind of seeing as part of it.
So I was chatting to my brother about it the weekend, and he was like, "I don't think that's a red card." I'm like, "What? Are you okay? You just literally tweaked your music. Like, is he gone for the head? Like, obviously he's gone for the ball, but I mean, your foot's that high. I mean, Mateta's what, 6'2", 6'3". 6'4", maybe.
Think of as his tucked-in shirt. I don't really know anything.
Do you remember when he first came to Palace and he had the plaits in his
It
head?
was terrible.
And then he shaved it all off and just turned into private.
When he rebadged himself, rebranded.
Versus Samson.
It's genius.
It's worked well.
I wonder which barber's responsible for that. They needed a raise.
Millwall won't feature this week because they're at 12:30.
Will Palace.
I don't know, do you want to start there? I'll just quickly try to look at the
They're at home
1
to
to 2.
Yeah.
Beat Ipswich, which is a nice way to start.
And I think that's value if Mateta's playing, but I don't think...
I say, what if Mateta's not going to play?
Yeah. I mean,
Surely he's not going to play.
Nketiah came off the bench and got a goal, which is good for his confidence.
Nketiah started scoring at least. He's got a couple now, hasn't he, in the past couple of weeks, which he desperately needed.
30 million quid.
It's a lot of money for Palace, and I saw this week that it might have been Paul Barber, maybe at Brighton, was saying that it shows like he felt uncomfortable paying 40 million for Jorginho Ruta and to an extent 30 million for João Pedro as well, and it just shows that you've got to spend that money now. If you're anywhere in the Premier League, it's like the going rate to get anyone, but it's not happened for him. But I'm not sure.
1 to 2 is a bit short.
Then are they better than Ipswich?
I was impressed with Nketiah off the bench. I know it's against, the big caveat is against 10-man championship strugglers Millwall. But I just thought his all-round game, he looked really sharp. So I wouldn't immediately draw a line through it because of the fact that he's going to be playing instead of Mateta. Of course, Mateta's been in superb form for Crystal Palace. I would probably, because of it being 1 to 2, I'd probably leave it to one side initially in search of slightly more favourable prices, just so we're not boxing ourselves in early. But I do have it down as a selection I like for, as you alluded to, Tom, then like getting against Ipswich. Palace have been really, really good for a long period of time.
You're on a bit of a tear. 9 wins in 12.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, they absolutely destroyed Aston Villa at home recently. So I would feel confident that they will beat Ipswich. I know Ipswich stung us in an Acca only a couple of weeks ago.
Villa, wasn't it? Yeah.
Villa, wasn't it?
But
then that weird save happened at the end.
Exactly. Aston Villa deserved to win that game. Crystal Palace are a good team. Then, I do like the selection. It's just, I think it's right on the line of value price-wise, and then there is the slight change up front. So I'd say it's 1 to
Put a pin in.
Where should we go? Where do you want to chuck one in to start with? I mean, there are a couple that immediately jump out to me that we'd daft not to.
Yeah. Somebody else want to go?
Burnley to beat Luton.
Burnley to beat Luton.
Why they're 4-6?
I don't know.
Just Burnley to beat Luton.
It's baffling.
It's again Burnley conceded in midweek. That was a strange phenomenon. But again, it's the Championship promotion contenders of Sheffield United, who I will mention shortly, and Burnley, just are always big, overpriced. It feels like in games. I think it's fundamentally because they're not good, but in terms of performance levels, they're not as good as the leaders. But still, they're winning most weeks. They're still hanging around. They're still well within the race. And the fact that the schedule, Leeds play Portsmouth on Sunday, good chance to put more pressure on it for both of them. Luton haven't, again, we've said it before, they're going down effectively now. There's the time to turn it around is quickly running out. They are 5 points adrift of Cardiff, who are playing quite well in terms of picking up results and getting stuff, and that kind of 7-0 hammering was a nice reset point for them. Stoke, Hull, who actually won a home game for once, so well done to them. Oxford, the Gary Rowett thing has kind of dropped off, but they went on such a good run that they dragged themselves out of trouble. Luton are running out of time and they are showing no signs of real life in truth. Yes, they did beat Portsmouth, but that was narrowly. In away games especially, it's absolutely nothing.
On their away record?
Yeah, terrible. I'm going to guess they must have beaten someone. Did they beat QPR, was it, under Edwards? I think.
They've won once away from home all season, and they've lost 13 of the last 14 away league games. The only point they picked up in that time was away at Sheffield Wednesday in a game that they conceded over 2 expected.
Millwall, I knew it was a London team in blue.
So they are absolutely tragic away from home, and now they're going against one of the best teams in the league.
Simple slopes.
Simple.
It is 4-6 best price. That is standard.
It's bonkers.
Should we kick off the Acca with that?
Yeah.
Yep. First pick then of this week's Acca comes from the Sky Bet Championship. It is promotion hopefuls at Burnley to beat relegation threatened Luton. You want to pick up on Sheffield United? Because I did mention it in that last bit. They are 7-10 to beat Preston at home. Preston, who are FA Cup quarter-finalists. Fantastic achievement. I feel like that run and a lot of their season has been dependent on home games. I will ask, do we think Sheffield United are overpriced for a home win at the weekend? 7-10.
I think so, yeah. I think earlier on in the season, they were probably a little bit fortunate to be so high in the table, but the last 6, 7, 8 games, they've actually started playing like a team that you expect to finish in the top 4. A good change in terms of process. And just at home, they've been very, very strong. 12 wins, 2 draws, 3 defeats. Defeats came to Burnley, Leeds, and then just a really random one against Hull, where they just, I think Hull were a bit clinical with the chances on that occasion, and the draws were against West Brom, another team in the top 6, and QPR in the very first home game of the season. So been pretty much flawless at home, and against bottom half teams at home, they've won 8, drawn 1, lost 1. So they've been very, very dominant when they're playing against kind of below average teams. And then Preston away, they played 4 away games against the top 8. They've drawn 1, lost 3. So when they play the better teams, they either lose. I think the draw, I bet you can guess where the draw came.
To draw it, I'm going to go
big fat 0-0.
0-0 at Burnley.
You are correct.
Yes.
I can't see that happening here. And I know there's the little subplot of Heckingbottom returning to Sheffield United, but they don't travel well, Preston. They've got cup quarterfinals to think about. They don't want, they're not playing for anything in the league. I can't imagine they want to go there and play too much spoiler. And the price is just massive. I mean, what price would Leeds be at home to Preston? 1-3?
3, 1-4 probably.
So Sheffield United in my book should be probably 1-2 at the very least. And we're getting 7-10. Doesn't make sense.
Preston are in the FA Cup quarterfinals. Bristol City, who I might mention shortly again, they are in the top 6 race. What has someone done with football? And
Bristol City,
why have they broken it
together and go back down to what is it?
11th, 10th, 11th.
They need to just
Preston always just battle.
They just need to
There's
stop.
still time.
We say that though. Actually, do we have to put a bit of a worry on Preston? Need 5 points to get up to the hallowed 11th place that they always cherish or feel like they always battle for.
On Sheffield United Preston, then I'm all for it. 8 wins from 10 for Sheffield United, 1 win in 6 for Preston in terms of league form for both of them, and then the long term in terms of where they are in the league. I think it's a very simple selection. Bristol City, I think we mentioned them on the podcast last week. They've kind of just snuck up. They got into the top 6, didn't they? Then they slipped out because of a midweek result, and then they gone back in again. At home to Hull at even money, then it's a real tempt to that, because Hull they've improved under Ruben Selles, but they've been nowhere near consistent. They got some early results, then they've had they're just not consistent. They're not a consistently good Championship team, and they're right down in the relegation battle. And if we just pull it back to simple analysis, then it's a team contending for those final couple of playoff places against a team that's going to be in the relegation battle to the final day, and it's an even money bet for a home win. Then I really am not sure whether we would be overcomplicating ourselves by looking much beyond that, to be honest.
We're concerned that Hull seemingly have a knack of picking up away results.
Yes, I'm concerned about that.
There's Sheffield United, didn't they? They beat Sunderland as well. I don't know how they do it, but they seemingly do it. They're the worst team in the league at home, or they were before they played Plymouth Argyle in midweek, which they won. Away from home, I'm not sure.
4 wins in the last 6 away from home. That's enough to put me off backing this. I agree. I think Bristol City are the more likely winners, hence the price. They've been on a good home run themselves, but I think we're still trying to figure out what Ruben Selles' whole team are. And as you said, their home form's been rubbish all season, and their away form's picked up. A bit like Sheffield Wednesday. They're a team you don't really want to oppose away from home at the minute anyway. I initially looked at this and thought even money, that's a big bet. And then you looked at Hull's away form and kept 4 clean sheets in those last 6 as well. They could go there, keep another clean sheet, fine margin game.
The 2 we're settled on so far. We've taken Burnley and Sheffield United, by the way.
Yeah.
If you want that just as a double, that's 9-5 double, which seems quite big.
Nice.
The 2 promotion hopefuls winning 2 home games.
Following the same thread, are we going to just look past the fact that Birmingham lost a game?
I was going to Birmingham run.
100%.
You know what I said? When I said at the start, we could just
keep it simple.
Keep it simple, stupid, as Average Man once said.
That's it.
Yeah, just take Burnley to beat Lincoln at
Birmingham.
Sorry.
We've got Burnley.
Yeah, take Birmingham to beat Lincoln at home 4-7. I mean, they lost it away at Bolton midweek, but Bolton have vastly improved since they changed manager, and even before they appointed Schumacher, then they started picking up results. But then they really have under Stephen Schumacher that he's such a funny Division League 1 this season in the battle to get the last couple of promotion places, because last couple of playoff places, that teams are going on these runs, winning like between 3 and 5 matches in a row. They're right up there, and it's all going to be about how you pace your effort, because Bolton look great now for the playoffs, but they could win a couple more, then they could lose 5 in a row, and all of a sudden,
Orient have done that, haven't they? Orient.
They've run out of steam, and ultimately this time last season, everybody was raving about Lincoln, saying they're going to be the team to beat in the playoffs, and they just paced it incorrectly. It's really, really odd, but Bolton are definitely a team like Charlton. They're the 2 teams really on a heater at the moment. So I definitely wouldn't be overly concerned about Birmingham losing there. And Birmingham have actually struggled away from home against teams since like the latter part of the last year, and especially against teams who are of a better quality. It's either been a really hard-fought win or they've dropped points. At home,
flawless,
untouchable.
Newcastle, the only team to have won in 90 minutes, aren't they? I think.
Yeah, I mean,
that Walsall turn them over on pens into something.
That was an absolute slugfest for Newcastle to get that win against a changed Birmingham 11-2. Then Lincoln, they went to Barnsley last Saturday. They made a game of it late on by getting a couple of goals, but
that's 3-2 in the end. So it's
4-3.
It was
4 goals away at a Barnsley side who have got atrocious home form. It's very, very difficult to make a case for them getting anything from Birmingham. Surely that game goes off at Birmingham to win at 1-3. It has to. Yeah. So it's a very, very uncomplicated one.
Not too much more to add, to be honest. I mean, I think the most impressive thing about Birmingham is they've had 6 straight home wins. I mean, they've won 14 out of 17 all. But the last 3 have come against Charlton, Leyton Orient and Wycombe. So they've beaten 3 teams that are, Wycombe are promotion contenders, currently second. Charlton and Orient are pushing playoffs. And they've beaten those quite comfortably. Lincoln aren't near that level. Lost 4 of their 5 away games against teams currently in the top 10. Conceded 13 times in that period as well. So that their ceiling looks to be about mid-table, 12th. And when you play anyone else above that, they tend to struggle. So again, just the price just looks way off. Not too sure. Like it almost makes us think like, what we're missing for them to be this price. Probably, and the same with Sheffield United and Burnley. Like,
what are they missing?
Well, yeah, are they underestimating the gulf in quality?
You take it. I think those 3 picks there, and so far. So then the 3 picks we have in this week's Acca. We've got the first game that we mentioned there, Burnley to beat Luton. We've got Sheffield United to beat Preston and Birmingham to beat Lincoln in League One. The treble, the threefold at the moment at 3.4 to 1. Depending where we go, we could do this with one more pick then for a fourfold. Any other suggestions where we'd like to head around?
Yeah, Southampton to beat Liverpool. No, I'm joking.
Make it 85 to 1.
Lovely. I think there's one team that I hope we all can agree on, and that's Wrexham to beat Rotherham, because I just thought the price was massive. Odds against for Wrexham, who are still the second best home team in the division, and that's not counting the fact that they've lost or do winless across the last 4 home matches, played Birmingham, Leyton Orient, Bolton and Stevenage in that time. So 3 teams that we think are very good. 2 that are very good, 1 that's okay, 1 that's middling. But yeah, if you take those away, before that they were 12 wins and 2 draws, so they've had a little wobble. But if you split their home games into matches against the top half and bottom half, it's a nice 9-game split either way. Against bottom half teams, they've won 8, drawn 1. Against top half teams, they've won 4, drawn 3, lost 2. So they absolutely wiped the floor with bottom half teams. Rotherham are the epitome of a bottom half team, especially away from home. They are really, really bad. They beat Bristol Rovers last week when we got against them. We're going to get Bristol Rovers are not a very good team. Away from home, Rotherham has 3 wins, 5 draws, 9 defeats. They've got the 14th best underlying process away from home. I think the most impressive thing about Wrexham is we did a few TikToks a couple of months ago, and I kind of said I wouldn't be surprised to see Wrexham drop off, but their underlying process has actually improved since that period, where they're actually started to perform like a top 6 team as opposed to mid-table. So I think if they continue doing that, they are going to pick up enough results to obviously secure top 6 and maybe nick that top 2 finish. But yeah, I just thought odds against 21 to 20, evens in most places, looks a little bit too big. And it's the kind of game that Wrexham are going to like as well, because Rotherham are going to turn up and be physical.
Most horrible game of football of the weekend, isn't it? This?
They're going to be so direct, and Wrexham kind of like that. So I thought this was a massive price. Again, a team at the top end of the league. Like, why not overcomplicate it?
Thoughts? Not. Nothing else to add, to be honest. Wrexham, I think, just piggybacking on what Jake said about when we had to do the couple of TikTok videos, I just think Wrexham did great January business. The thing that they were struggling with was eking out the fine margin wins, especially away from home, and we've seen it the last few weeks. They've got Sam Smith and Jay Rodriguez up front now, and then they bring Stephen Fletcher off the bench and he scores a winner for him in midweek.
What's the average height of those 3, do you reckon? Must be like 6'3" across the
average or added together. Nearly 20 feet.
Just can you imagine if you're like a centre half and you played against Rodriguez and Smith for 70 minutes?
Sam Smith just a brilliant all-round player as well. That it's such a terrific signing. And Rotherham, they've won back-to-back games. That is just something we've definitely got to acknowledge. And Leyton Orient, they're going to just have to very much, because that's who they beat in midweek, try and wrestle their season back together after suffering that bitter blow, 2 late goals at home to Charlton, then losing at Rotherham. I don't think Rotherham as bad as the table suggests, but I do think that Wrexham are hugely overpriced.
It's the price, isn't it?
Considering they've won, is it 90% of their home league games under Phil Parkinson since he took over? So it's a fairly uncomplicated one. The price is the clincher.
We could take those 4.
We could. What would that give us?
8-1.
8-1.
Which I like, just on the basis, I know it's a little bit short than what we usually go for, but then, frankly, you're taking the team in second, the team in third in the Championship, the team in first, and the team in third, is it? In Sky Bet League One, to win 4 to win home games this weekend at 8-1. It just doesn't feel correct.
What do you think? So I'd be quite happy to take that 8, and then maybe discuss a couple that you could add in.
I wanted to bump it up because we always say, we'll do the longer shot on the website if that's what you wanted.
I think that's a great shout, Tom.
It's just no need to overcomplicate it. Almost.
Internet connections. I'm just trying to find the other ones that I wanted to.
So we've mentioned Bristol City already as a potential.
Bristol Rovers 7-2 at home to Huddersfield. I'm going to get back on them because I believe they will turn something around. I'm also keen to get against Huddersfield. When your owner is coming out in an interview, Radio Leeds, and kind of saying, there's no need to boo them off. We're in the playoff places, which is still true. But when kind of statements like that come out, that they're in a weird position, as it has kind of been throughout the season. Kind of at the end of January and that deadline day, the general mood around supporters wasn't necessarily one of huge optimism that they could kind of carry on, and they've had to switch and change things around and try and find the kind of right formula and right kind of methods of going about under Duff. It's just not quite been there, considering our lofty, or mine particularly, pre-season expectations, and there's just no variety, is there, at Huddersfield? It's very much like the exact same sort of striker across the board. There's no kind of potential to mix things up and change it around a little bit. They're 7-2 Bristol Rovers at home to beat them. That was kind of my longer, bigger price selection that I did want to bring up just in case, just to get against Huddersfield at the moment.
Yeah, on Huddersfield, personally on the selection, I don't think it's quite big enough, the price. So when we're looking at the price that we backed them at last week against Rotherham, that was touching 3-1, I think, wasn't it? That for a team that they've been in the top 6 all season, that I don't think it's quite big enough personally. On Huddersfield, I completely agree. I think that they've gone to complete pot, and it's back on the point that I mentioned a little earlier. It's such a bizarre league this season, below Birmingham, Wycombe and Wrexham, that seemingly there is not another team who can just, win 6, draw a couple, win and lose a couple, and just do that all season. It is just streaky runs, and it's very, very hard to call how that those remaining playoff positions are going to finish because of these streaky runs. And it's talking about owners and chairmen, who's going to hold firm and not get rid of the manager, who is going to decide, if we got rid of one, would we get a bump that's going to give us those 3 or 4 wins that might shoot us up the table? It's a very, very interesting time now. Will people get a boost if their matches get postponed and they don't have a game in the international breaks? They have a 2-week break and they can get themselves back together if they've got injuries. It's fascinating in League One, below the top 3. Stockport have done the same. Stockport had that really poor run and then they won loads in a row.
So who do you fancy?
I honestly couldn't call it. I absolutely could not call it.
It looks like 3 of 4, doesn't it? There's a 3-point drop to Reading. I mean, they could still be in it, or if they played a game more, they're a point further back.
It goes down to Barnsley, and then there's that.
Do you think Barnsley can get on a run?
Well, Barnsley have done the same. Barnsley had 1 win in 6, then they won 3 in a row, then they lost at Charlton, and now they've got a run of very winnable games. But it's
the same across the board, though, because you look at the Championship one, you go up a division. Coventry, they're fine form. They've
you're rating that
kind of go.
Lampard getting the credit for
I like Coventry. I kind of like Coventry as a club, though, so it's kind of like he kind of offsets that. And there was, you watch them and you go, there's still something good there. This will come good. West Brom, again, were kind of, if you wanted to include them, I'd have no issues with them against QPR. Under Mowbray, really impressed with them at Leeds. It was kind of a nice time to play that. I think they were probably mentally drained from back-to-back huge games, which they've obviously won late on. It takes a lot out of you. They managed to get a point there and could have won based on the late chances. I mean, the first half when Adam Armstrong was played through one-on-one with Melia, it was like flashbacks of horrible. Oh God, it's Wembley again. Oh no, didn't score, so it was fine. But Bristol City, we mentioned, Blackburn, Middlesbrough seem to lose every week, and they're still always in the playoff picture.
They've won 2 in a row now.
And then they turn it around, and it's just across the board. The Championship League One, it's just. Yeah. It's almost impossible to call, as you touched upon that.
And this is why it's definitely, I'm just enjoying the wider discussion about it, but in terms of teams that you're going to put in your ACCA, I think it's really, really difficult to either back them or even go against them, because it could be the day that suddenly they get it back together again and they win as you would expect, or they win like you don't expect, because it's been happening all season with these teams that are like pretty good. They're a top 10 team. They might finish 4th, they might finish 10th. So they're probably teams to avoid. So I really like the fourfold that we've got. Sorry for having to dip down to get my phone a minute ago because my laptop stopped working.
We've not even touched on League Two either.
I was about to mention a team in League Two.
The slate in League Two looks really difficult this week.
The only other one that I've got in League One was Bolton odds against to win at Burton. And Burton are another team they've turned around brilliantly under Gary Bowyer, and it's just the fact that it's odds against, and Bolton have really, I think they've always had a good squad, and it just came to an end under Ian Evatt.
Did you see the goal that Burton conceded in midweek? It's comically good. So that would be one that I'd be considering. It's no mean feat to win 3-1 at home to Birmingham. It's really not. And Bolton's results have been really good for 6 weeks or so now. So I'd be considering that as an additional one. But again, for the points mentioned, Bolton might lose 5 in a row, then win 5 in a row and finish 5th. So it's such a curious point in the season.
And teams making late charges for the League Two playoffs. Colchester 7-5 to beat Cheltenham. 6 wins, 4 draws in the last 10 under the Cowleys. Looking, they are 6 points adrift with a game in hand over Crewe as well, who currently occupy that last spot.
Crewe have had a
Colchester
as well.
Could be a team that made kind of that late surge with that very kind of distinct style of play, etc., but in great form. And the Cowleys, who are obviously best known for the Lincoln spell, and it's been mixed in other places that they've gone to, but absolutely wouldn't look against them not making a charge towards the playoffs, and that can start again, or continue, sorry, I should say, away at Cheltenham this week.
They've been very consistent, haven't they? Which is
It's very tough to beat.
Yeah.
I know they've been drawn, but they're very tricky side to get the better of. When you look at the fact that they have lost 7 games all season, only Port Vale have lost fewer games across the course of the campaign, and that's largely, again, they draw a lot of games, but 1 point's better than none, isn't it? As Colchester have been the case. It's just, as it was the case when actually the Cowleys came in at the back end of last year, it was so many draws, it's just turning those draws into wins. But I think that's much easier to do than trying to get a team who have lost 6 games in a row to then start winning again. So they're a potential. I did want to obviously flag them for the weekend as well before we wrap up.
There's no League Two teams really, other than like Bradford, that are. I mean, Bromley have on a good run at the minute, but there's everyone else in that top 7. They're just showing so much vulnerability. Like Notts County, it looked as though they were going to be nailed on top 3, and they've had a real wobble. 1 win in 5. Wimbledon the same, not 1 in 4. Vale just draw too many games to consider finishing in the top 7 as a bit of a lock. And then you've got Bromley, who are absolutely flying, and all of a sudden 4 wins in 5. I mean, can you imagine if Bromley got into the playoffs? What a story that'd be. There was nothing in League Two. Me and Jimmy were chatting beforehand, and the one that would, like an outsider that we thought might be interesting was Morecambe to beat MK Dons, because MK Dons have absolutely crumbled.
Single manager though, aren't they, MK Dons? So that's the one to.
They just sacked him.
That
experiment went well, didn't it?
Yeah, but I was the same. I hate the League Two slate this weekend. Absolutely hate it. It's fascinating in terms of how the results might go, but I hate it for an ACCA. Yeah. It's just as bad as it's been all season, I think.
Should we round off though and get out of here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we mentioned West Brom briefly, didn't we?
West Brom, at home to keep.
At 4 to 5, that was one that made my list. I would be.
They get Josh Madger back. That striker department's going to be hilarious.
It'll be a major boost for them.
A Madger boost.
See the commentary clip, mate.
Yeah, there we go. Right, let's get out of here. We're happy with the 4 that we had.
Yep.
The 4 then teams that make up this week's Acca are as followed. Coming from the Sky Bet Championship, we've got Sheffield United to beat Preston, Burnley to beat Luton, dropping down into League One is Wrexham to beat Rotherham, and it is Birmingham to beat Lincoln, and the price just ever so slightly shy of 8 to 1. Remember to keep it fun, never bet more you can afford, and please gamble responsibly. Head over to sportinglife.com/football midday on Friday. You'll be able to find the link to back that at an enhanced price. We'll have a longer one with a few of the teams we mentioned at the end as well, teams that we could see getting results as well for a bit of a bigger priced.
We don't want to forget them, do we?
Palace.
We pinned them very early.
Palace. Yeah, they'll be featuring in that, won't they? The longer accumulator we'll have. And if you haven't already, please follow and rate us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your chosen podcast provider. We'll be back. Join Cheltenham next week if you're into horse racing. Well, we got time to do one next week. We're too busy betting on the racing.
We'll be there.
We'll squeeze in one next week.